Peace. This is White Raptor News Ministry. We're here at Joshua chapter 6. Let's give all praise and glory to the Supreme Spirit of Truth, the living God, the Supreme One that moves all things in place, the eternal, the internal, the external, the One, the Almighty, the perpetual, always existing. Give praise to Him. He's worthy of it. Now the gates of Jericho were securely barren because of the Israelites. No one went out and no one came in. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its kings and its fighting men. March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse and the army will go up, everyone straight in." So Joshua, son of Nun, called. I imagine that what's happening here, by the way, is as they're sounding the horns and they shout, that at the same time that they're shouting here, that they're throwing with treadgets, those, what do they call them? I imagine that they were firing things like these, is why the wall come down. A loud shout. Well, you know, a loud shout with the right vibration and stuff, energy, frequency, vibration, sound. When you use sound at a certain level, man, it can be used as a weapon. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but it's possible. But more than likely, they were firing these things off all over the walls, and the walls of the city will collapse and the army will go in, everyone straight in. So Joshua, son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant of the Lord and have 7 priests carry trumpets in front of it." And he ordered the army, "Advance, march around the city with an armed guard going ahead of the ark of the Lord." When Joshua had spoken to the people, the 7 priests carried the 7 trumpets before the Lord, went forward, blowing their trumpets, and the ark of the Lord's covenant followed them. The armed guards marched ahead of the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard followed the ark. All this time the trumpets were sounding, but Joshua had commanded the army, "Do not give a war cry, do not raise your voices, do not say a word until the day I tell you to shout, then shout." So he had the ark of the Lord carried around the city, circling it once. Then the army returned to the camp and spent the night there. Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priest took up the ark of the Lord. The 7 priests carried the 7 trumpets, went forward, marching before the ark of the Lord and blowing the trumpets. The armed men went ahead of them, and the rear guard followed the ark of the Lord, while the trumpets kept sounding. So on the 2nd day, they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. They did this for 6 days. On the 7th day, they got up at daybreak and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, except that on the day they circled the city 7 times, the 7th time around, when the priests sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the army, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. The city and all that is in it are to be devoted to the Lord. Only Rahab, the prostitute, and all who are with her in her house shall be spared, because she hid the spies we sent. But keep away from the devoted things, so that you will not bring about your own destruction by taking any of them. Otherwise you will make a camp of Israel liable to destruction and bring trouble on it. But keep away from the devoted things. Keep away from the Gentile idols, their devoted things. Keep away from their pagan rituals. Keep away from their holidays. so that you will not bring about your own destruction by taking any of them. Otherwise, you will make the camp of Israel liable to destruction and bring trouble on it. All the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron are sacred to the Lord and must go into his treasury. Oh, woo! If that isn't a truth bomb right there, that tells you that the Lord has a treasury, okay? And the Lord in this case is Yahweh, and Yahweh is a man. So this Lord Yahweh has a treasury. The Lord Yahweh is questionable. Not that whose God he is or anything, but why all the treasury? It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. When the trumpets sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpets, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. So everyone charged straight in, and they took the city. They devoted the city to the Lord and destroyed with the sword every living thing in it, men and women, and young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. So Israel has just slaughtered, okay, everything that lived in this city. Men, women, and children. You dashed children's heads against the rocks. Now, this is what the Bible's telling us is to happen to the Gentile. That we're going to get a double portion of it. What I'm getting at here is that you guys came in and you slaughtered this whole entire city. Everything. Again. But yet, they're survivors. This God also, he tells you what? He's leading you into battle. He goes before you with the sword, but yet you're the battle axe. That means that he's using you. I don't know. This world that we live in is kind of strange, folks. These gods and other gods and plural of other gods and Elohim and Eloheka and Elanu and Enlil and Enki and Gilgamesh and Melchizedek and all these other gods and Jesus and Iesos and all the names that have been passed down to gods through the time are all questionable to me. Anything that has been in a flesh suit, I don't care if it's Israel, I don't care if it's a Gentile, anything in a flesh suit is susceptible to the destruction of the one that has power over the nations, those that were created on the sixth day of creation. The serpent was given power. The serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. The beast is more crafty than we are, folks. He's conning us into this division. Because clearly the Bible says, are we gonna run into this loop again? If history repeats itself, is Israel gonna be in control and they're gonna wipe all of the Gentile off the face of the earth? I don't think so. I don't think that either way ever has Israel been wiped out or has the Gentile been wiped out. I'm just questioning, has this already taken place? Because why are you still in slavery if the Spirit has given you this land, given you Jericho? I'm trying to understand why all of a sudden that you're back in captivity again. Because the Bible's telling us that you guys have already won strongholds in these providences. But yet, the truth is those Jews that are in the providence of Israel today are not the true children of God. Okay? This plane of existence, look, it's not about black and white. When God created the beasts of the field, each according to their kinds, he created Europeans, he created Indians, he created Germans, he created Italians and Greeks and Americans and South Canadians and all these different nations. You understand? That's what was created on the sixth day of creation. So these nations have always been here from the very beginning. They've been in their own, rebelling, partying, possibly none of them being saved, but where's their soul going? To the fire? There was nobody in the very beginning to save souls. Jesus wasn't here to save souls in the beginning. Why isn't Jesus' name used in the Old Testament? And the one time that Jesus' name is used in the Old Testament, they call him Emmanuel. God is with us. El, once again. Emmanuel. El, God El. Elohim. Eloheka. Elonu. Eloah. El Shaddai. El Elyon. Angels. San Raphael. Uriel. San Rigiel. All these angels have El, because they are all of the God El, the God of electricity, the elected, the elite, the elevated, those that are of higher sort of. What makes one race better than the other race? Because one race is a living and the other race is of the dead. You see, God, the Supreme Spirit, gave something power, such great power, when it fell from him. This God had power. This plane of existence that we live in is the underworld. We are living in the underworld. This plane of existence is hell. You're living in it and you don't even know it. Joshua said to the 2 men who had spied out the land, "Go into the prostitute's house and bring her out and all who belong to her, in accordance with your oath to her." So the young men who had done the spying went in and brought out Rahab and her father and mother, her brothers and sisters, and all who belonged to her. They brought her entire family and put them in a place outside the camp of Israel. Then they burned the whole city and everything in it, but they put the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron into the treasury of the Lord's house. Okay, Spirit doesn't need riches, folks. Okay, you understand that? The Supreme Spirit behind the lines don't care about any riches. Okay, so anyone who's talking about riches and silver and gold and articles of wealth that have been made of riches in this plane of existence is only something that is being used. Both good and evil are used for the Supreme Spirit's glory. He is said to one children, to one set of people, a bloodline, a living bloodline, that you are not to do certain things. He gave you commandments to follow, and then when you follow them, you're righteous, you do righteous, your life will be a righteous life, you will be protected. And when you don't, then your children are gonna be shot down in the middle of the streets. They're gonna be ODing on the drugs and stuff that this Gentile nation provides for you. This is why God said, stay away. But Joshua spared Rahab and the prostitute with her family and all who belonged to her, because she hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho, and she lives among the Israelites to this day. Well, I doubt seriously that she lives among the Israelites to this day. Why would that be in there? Oh, this was written, thousands of years ago. So something like that would have to be, modified, unless she's a ghost or a demon. And after all, she was a prostitute. At the time Joshua pronounced this solemn oath, "Cursed before the Lord is the ones who undertakes to rebuild this city, Jericho. At the cost of the firstborn son, he will lay its foundations. At the cost of his youngest, he will set up its gates." So, what does that mean? At the cost of his firstborn, it means slavery, once again, is what it sounds like to me. At the cost of his firstborn son, he will lay its foundations, meaning he just said that you're not to rebuild the city. So anybody who does rebuild the city, it's going to come at the cost of their firstborns. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land. All praise and glory to the Supreme Spirit of Truth, the living God who is one. Blessings to all those children that serve the Most High. There is none like him. May peace be with you. This is White Raptor News Ministries.